Hello, everyone. Coming up here on the Pro Wrestling Show presents the AEW Dynamite Ring Report. Coming up, what message we have for you? We're talking about this right here. Mika will take the place of Timeless Tony Storm. Mika will take the place of friend of No Holds Barred to take on Maria Shafir. Will Mika get revenge on what had happened to Tony Storm? We'll talk about it coming up here on the Pro Wrestling Show. Also, too, the return of Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay returns. What will Will Ospreay have in store coming up against Blake Christian in his first night back? We'll talk about it as well. Well as what's going to go down, and we'll talk about fallout from Revolution. So we get started with what's going on with the next dynasty. We're on the road to dynasty. The AEW Ring Report starts right now. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this edition of the Pro Wrestling Show. I'm your host, as always, Kendrick Dixon. Glad you join us on the Pro Wrestling Show. Join in the conversation. Use the hashtag Pro Wrestling. Don't connect and don't forget to subscribe. Subscribe is again. Tell a friend, call a friend, and subscribe button so you won't miss a thing. All right, let's get started with the AEW Ring Report right here, right now. We kick. Sorry, folks. Kick things off with this. We saw that Timeless Tony Storm was knocked out senseless. Timeless Tony Storm, Mika was screaming. Mika was probably trying to figure out what was going on with her friend, Tony Storm. Tony Storm got knocked out. Tony Storm laid out of the blue. He was knocked out. Mika had to step up. So Mika here later on in the show, we'll see that match coming up eventually. But Rena Shafir on what was going down tonight. We saw that tonight as well. We'll see that a little bit. Well, we'll talk about it right now. Well, Mika got the victory, and Mika got the victory over for her friend, Timeless Tony Storm. We told you that Tony Storm was a part of Revolution. She won her match. I'm going to show you that right quick. When Tony Storm was in action, she won her match against Maria Shafir. We can show that right quick. Showing MJL. Timeless Tony Storm looked like she didn't want to back down from a challenge. We don't know what's going on. Timeless Tony Storm was in a challenge. He took on Ronda. She tried to take on Ronda Rousey. They had a confrontation. Maybe Ronda was the woman that really got Timeless Tony Storm to act up and got knocked down. Ronda probably was the one that do what she had to do in order to get what she had what going on. Well, but Mika get the win and get the victory for tonight. Also, too, it's like a word or words between Kenny Omega and Swerve Strickland. Kenny Omega and Swerve will have a match sooner rather than later. They're gonna have a match next week. Well, a lot of implications going down. Swerve right here, well, Dark Sinister promo saying that Kenny Omega needs to put up his spot, his power as executive vice president on the line against Swerve, who's the number one contender for the AEW championship. So Kenny Omega will get their chance next week. Next week will be the test of time. Something has to give. Will it be Swerve's contendership or Kenny Omega's EVP status? Swerve wants the EVP status as well as Kenny Omega wants the that number one contendership. In order to do so, you got to defeat Swerve, but that's kind of dangerous, you ask me, putting up your number one contendership position up on the line, and we don't know what Swerve might do. Swerve look like he's kind of unhinged. Swerve look like he's the type of person that wants to be drunk with power. use the power for himself. We'll see next week when these two collide. This got to be the main event next week. It has to be. We'll see that Swerve versus Omega 2 next week. As well as this, Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay is back. Will Ospreay returning from Revolution to get his hands on the Death Riders. Will Ospreay went against newcomer Blake Christian. And Will Ospreay won his match tonight over the Blake Christian. Will Ospreay saying that he's looking to hunt the Death Riders one by one, even to the point that Pac had came out of nowhere and Pac had choked out Will Ospreay. Ospreay didn't see that one coming, but Will Ospreay back. Will Ospreay better watch himself against Pac. So we'll see coming up as well. Speaking of the Death Riders, John Moxley looks like he's slowly turning face. But the Death Riders looks like they're kind of listening, but you can tell they're going to attack him eventually one day. But Willow Yu was listening. Willow Yu was trying to wrestle with some black tights on. Willow Yu feels like he's more comfortable in black tights. Moxley won that match in a huge trio match. I think it was a six-man tag team match, so we saw that. Well, Darby Allin went against Gabe Kidd. Darby Allin won in his signature match, the coffin match. Darby Allin. They're doing a lot of spots throughout that coffin match. Drove underneath, Darby Allin coming out, Gabe Kidd. And Darby Allin saying that he wants a shot at MJF for the AEW World Championship. Everybody's gunning for MJF. MJF better watch himself because everybody's gunning for you to become champion once again. So you see MJF and Darby Allin. So, well, move on to this. Speaking of MJF protecting his feet, that he got a text from Don Callis and Andrade had to do business work on behalf of MJF to eradicate everybody in his way. MJF sending new goons to attack people that's coming for his title, like a Kenny Omega and a Darby Allin is coming to get the title. Well, speaking of that, Speedball Mike Baylor was in action. Speedball getting the victory. And Speedball getting himself into tension. I can tell you that right now. Well, we go to this right here. We saw the Death Riders won their match tonight. You got the win. Also, too, we see this. This is going to be the end right here. We see Christian and the Young Bucks with their action. Young Bucks, I think it was in six-man tag team action, but we saw Christian and Edge returning at Revolution to get their hands on FTR, the current tag team champions. Christian and Edge and Christian made the announcement that FTR will defend the tag team titles against them at Revolution. So FTR going to have their work cut out for them that night at Revolution. FTR will go ahead and could say goodbye, becoming tag team champions. Well, it looks like FTR is going to have a FTR problem. After they said Edge and Christian said this is personal for them. But the Edge took a concerto from him. The Edge want to get his hands on FTR, and he'll have that shot for the tag team championships, and saying that they want to be the best tag team, even the tag team of the Young Bucks generation. So we've seen a lot going down as well. So it looks like we could add the Young Bucks could be added to the championship match. We'll see how they're going to be added coming up. All right, that ends the AEW ring report. Let's move forward right quick. Let's move forward. You know what I'm talking about? Forward quick. And we're going to move forward quick to Wrestling Hot Topic. All right, let's go to wrestling hot topic. All right, on wrestling hot topics, we want to talk about this right here. Many of you might know Ted DiBiase Jr., who was the son of the $1 million man. Ted DiBiase is in court right now due to fraud in Mississippi. Let's go to right now a news story, our affiliate, to see what's going on.
That's right. The defense bringing out that first witness to try to presumably show the jury that DiBiase was involved in doing work, but it's unclear if what he was doing was actually related to what prosecutors call those sham contracts, where he received nearly $3 million in federal welfare funds. After more than 2 weeks of testimony from nearly 24 witnesses, federal prosecutors wrapping up their conspiracy case Tuesday against former pro wrestler Ted DiBiase Jr. The last prosecution witness to take the stand, FBI forensic accountant Matthew Augerman. Augerman told the jury, in his expert opinion, DiBiase was running a shell company. The businesses he supposedly operated had no employees and was bringing in no revenue except for the $2.9 million in federal welfare funds prosecutors say DiBiase used to pay for his lavish lifestyle. The defense began calling witnesses after the judge rejected a defense motion to acquit DiBiase of all the charges. Attorneys for the defense arguing prosecutors did not prove the elements of the 13-count indictment. You plan to testify, Teddy? You plan to testify in your own defense? No word from the defendant, but the first witness on the stand, Alabama software developer Kevin McClendon. McClendon says he first met DiBiase in 2018 and discussed setting up a mobile app called Get Fit Mississippi to help improve eating habits of people in poverty and reduce the state's obesity rate. McClendon says DiBiase spent 4 to 6 months working on the app project, which would have cost between $1.5 million and $2 million. McClendon says it was his understanding that the state welfare department would have paid for that app using taxpayer dollars. This trial first started back in the middle of January. We've been subjected to at least 2 extended breaks. The judge telling the jury this afternoon that we're getting close to the end, but that, of course, won't happen before the jury has to hear another full day of testimony tomorrow from a full slate of defense witnesses starting first thing in the morning. For now, we're live at the federal courthouse in downtown. Ross Adams, 16 WAPT News.
All right, you heard from what's going on with the Ted DiBiase trial. I'm gonna keep an ongoing eye on this trial because remember, Ted DiBiase used to be a part of Legacy with Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes. That was nearly almost close to 20 years ago. Them making rough shots, and then how it's related to now as DiBiase's former Legacy stablemates are going to be main event WrestleMania against each other for the World Championship. So it's kind of interesting. We're going to keep a close eye on this, as well as we're keeping an eye on Cody and Randy Orton on SmackDown, this coming up on SmackDown this Friday, as well as DiBiase Jr. with his ongoing trial on fraud. So there's a lot going on, and we want to keep you updated on what's going on. All right, let's get to the superstar of the moment, of the night. All right, who is the superstar of the night? Because in AEW we saw a lot going on, and who I'm going to name the superstar of the night. I'm going to name it the one and only, the man that had returned back to competition. It was none other than Will Ospreay. I want to name Will Ospreay the superstar of the night. Will Ospreay coming back and making his returns. So we'll see if Will Ospreay is going to do so next week. Back into the saddle again, the AEW title. All right, before we go, like we said, don't forget, we're gonna see this Swerve versus Ken Omega. Swerve, no one Contender show online against Ken Omega, putting his EVP status. A lot at stake coming up next week. So looking forward to see this match between these two men. Who's going to give them their all. All right. We're going to leave you with Edge and Christian issuing their challenge to FTR to go for the tag team titles. Will the Young Bucks find a way to intervene? We'll have to wait and see. So for me,